Okay. Hello, everybody. We're starting our live coming up. This time it was more or less spontaneous decision to make it, but we will see if it's going to be interesting for you. We'll probably do it on a weekly basis and maybe even twice per week. We'll see. Please also, I will ask at the end of the video which time will be convenient for you because I understand many people lives in a different time zone. So for people from Australia or from people from North America, it's of course not the same time, but we need to find a compromise more or less. Plus, those videos will be most likely um, available after. So if you ask your question here and you don't have time to watch, you can open it later and to find the answer to your question in recording of this video. So let's wait 3 more minutes and then we will start. I hope you all had a productive week. Tomorrow start of the weekend, and the weather this summer here in Germany is very strange. It was 1 week very hot weather, then it's 2 weeks rain season here. Yesterday it was plus 17 degrees Celsius, which is about, I believe, 50 or something like this. No, a bit more, 60, 70. I mean, it's cold for the summer, yeah. So I don't know. How about you? Boss Manati, hello. Glad to see you here. Hello, people from Finland. So I prepared a whiteboard in case if you will have some questions that I can explain with drawing something. It might be useful. So we'll see how long this stream will be. I was planning to make it 1 hour or less, depending how many questions we will get. And as I told you, it's the first time, so we'll see how it goes. Maybe it will be more convenient for people to just write their question and then watch this video in replay. This time I'm doing it from webcam of my laptop in my office. If the quality of the video or audio is bad, please let me know. I might use my more professional microphone next time. For the video, I also have a possibility to start stream with my mobile phone. They have a decent quality for the frontal camera nowadays. Okay, 2 more minutes and we start. The main idea of this videos to make them live, I will explain. We have a lot of people who sending us messages in emails with one or two questions, and as only I answer or my assistant answers those questions, people have 2, 4, 5 more questions. So it's very hard and time consuming to have this dialogue with clients, with just people who are interested, because it just goes back and forth, and we receive every day sometimes 30, sometimes 100 emails. So it's very hard to answer immediately. And if we do a live conversation, those people who have a lot of questions and they are not immediately, at the same time. So if as only I answer one question and people have another question, they can ask me it immediately and I will try to answer it also immediately. This way, I think it will be the most productive. And in 1 hour, I will try to answer all the questions that people have who watch this stream. Thank you for the feedback. Glad that you can hear me well. So I see it's already 8 p.m. So we will start. And you can write your questions here in the YouTube stream. I will try to answer them. Maybe I'll add some couple more interesting facts that I had and I wanted to share with you while we wait for the questions. And yeah, and then we will probably finish for today. And we will see. Perhaps we can plan next live stream next week. Let's say maybe we'll do it on Tuesday evening or Wednesday evening, and then again Friday evening. This way you have 2 days. If you are not available to join stream on one day, then you have possibility to open stream on another day. So we have first messages. You can ask questions, any questions about e-bikes. Of course, for me, it would be more interesting to answer questions about our bikes or components. But if you have some general questions, I will try to answer them or explain them um, on example of our bikes, somehow like this, something like this. So it's already 8:01, so let's start. I received a question from one of our clients, which seems interesting for me, and I was thinking about it before. The client asked me if he can use his bike battery, as a power wall for his home or devices or whatever. And that's absolutely possible depending on your battery type and capacity. There is different possibilities what you can do with your battery. In general, if you have a battery of capacity 3-4 kilowatt hours, that should be enough to for someone even to power his home for half day or even a day. If we talk about powering laptop or something, it could be enough for a couple of days. So if you travel with your bike and you're doing touring for different cities or places, 4 kilowatt hour should be enough for plenty things. You can boil water with it, you can do whatever you want. And taking into account that this battery is capable of a short period of time for peak discharge over 10 kilowatt, you can power many things from this battery. So things like boiling water or other things that require a lot of power is not an issue for this battery. You just need to count how much energy your devices consume and for how long you want to use them, to understand for how long this battery will have enough capacity to use for your situation. If we talk about, for example, laptop, which use, let's say, power of 100 watts, I understand it's less, but let's say 100 watts, and you have your battery 3 kilowatt hour plus, then it should be enough for 30 hours to charge and use your laptop from this battery. So very interesting question. I was thinking about it before as well, and yeah, why not? Some people I know have at home power wall of about 10 kilowatt hour, and here inside the bike you have 3-4 kilowatt hour battery, so that's pretty much decent amount of capacity. Maybe you can even charge your bike from solar batteries if you have them installed in your house. So let's start answering the question from the chat. David asked, can I put a larger size front tire slash front? Yes, of course. You just need to think about the geometry. If you change, let's say, 19-inch tire to 21-inch tire, wheel, of course, then your front will go up and the total angle of attack will change. So you probably need to adjust the position of the rear shock support to keep the geometry of the frame in the previous level. Yes, Boss Manati just wrote his experience of using e-bike battery during his trip, and that's exactly what I was talking about. You can use, I know people who use transformer, DC AC transformers, 2000 watt, 3000 watt, and they were powering the like chainsaw, other very powerful devices, and the battery of your bike can do it very easily. Um, Let me see. There was another question which I wanted to answer. The first one today, it was how much you can take amps from QS205 model 3T with peaks burst. So let me explain first the in theory for those who don't know what the 3T and QS205 means. QS205 is the name of the motor that we use on our Typhoon bikes, and 3T means the number of the windings, how many windings you have on each coil. This motor 3T has three winding number, and it means that cross section is pretty big. So the bigger the cross section, the more amps you can push through the motor. Um, I think with a 3T for short period of time, I know people who push it up to 20 or even 30 kilowatt hour with a voltage about 100, 110 volts system. So you can see they push up to 200-300 amps, but it's like very short period of time, just a couple of seconds, of course. This motor has a nominal power of 3 kilowatt with 72 volt system. That means about 40-45 amps. And of course you need to think about the ambient temperature. If you ride in summer, let's say in south region, and the ambient temperature is pretty high, your delta between the temperature of the motor and the ambient temperature air is not that big, so you don't give enough opportunity for motor to cool down. And the Curie point of the magnets, the point where they lose a magnetic capabilities, is about on 140, 150 degrees Celsius, sometimes more, sometimes less. It depends on the quality of the magnets from which metals they are made. But in general, let's say it's 140. And if you hit your motor to 130 and your ambient temperature is 40, 45, or even higher if you ride on the sun, you have just 100 degrees as delta, and it's not that much. If you ride in autumn, spring, winter, and the motor temperature 140, but the ambient temperature is 0, you have already 140-degree delta difference between the temperature of the motor winding copper inside and the ambient temperature. I also wanted to answer another question that I received before about the radiators on the motors. I know a lot of people use them. Many people use them together with the ferrofluid, but we did the test with radiators. We did 30 acceleration from 0 to maximum speed and then regenerative braking without, and then the same procedure with the same bike, with the same more or less temperature outside with those radiators, but without ferrofluid, and we didn't see significant change. The thing is, you might cool down your motor with radiators a little bit more if you continuously riding, but the problem most of the time appears when the people use very high power, when they accelerate very aggressively in a short period of time, many times. And that's not the situation when those radiators can really help you, at least without ferrofluid. But to add ferrofluid, you need to open the motor or to drill a hole and that's already compromise the sealed, so to say, chamber inside the motor, because you're destroying the seal around the um, side cover of the motor, or you need to drill a hole, which you then need to close, otherwise the humidity, especially if you ride somewhere near the sea or ocean, will do their job, and you will see a lot of corrosion inside. So I don't know, if you really need more power, just think about bigger motor, different type of windings for different type of riding, or I don't know, just go with a vortex bike, because with a vortex bike you have the gear ratio, you have a three-turn motor, which relatively high RPM motor, but at the same time you can play with the gear ratio, and you will not stress your motor too much in terms of torque that you need, and you will not get a lot too much heat from the motor that you need to dissipate. Um, Question: where should you put your money in e-bike? Power or frame or suspension? Uh, Good question. I would say start with a frame, because frame is something that you can have for many years. I have bikes, and we have clients who use the frames for many years, 5 6 years, and if you take care of your frame, yeah, if it's not mm, scratched or something, nothing gonna happen with the frame. So if you go with a good quality frame, you can use it for many years, and you can just buy better components one by one and install them on the frame. If you do it other way around, if you buy fast, powerful controller or battery, but you use a bad frame, it's not safe to use it. Many people buy cheaper frames, lower quality, and it's not only about like paint or something. The welds are also compromised, and sometimes we have emails with a client who send us a picture where the welds, just the frame destroyed basically on the welds, and there is nothing you can do about it. It's like riding on a car which was not taken care properly, and this car is 40 50 years old. You never know what's going to happen, next kilometer. And especially if we talk about fast powerful e-bikes, just think about that you trust your life, the most precious thing you have, you trust into something that can break under next bump. I really don't recommend people to do this, because we really have situations when the client came to us, and there was a problem with a low quality frame, when the frame just destroyed, and you can get serious injury if you risk this way. Um, there's a questions about ferrofluid. Um, okay. Um, yeah, ferrofluid. How does it work? It just help you to transfer the heat from the uh, source of heat, which in our case are coils inside the motor, to the outer shell, right? Because if you don't have direct contact, it just heat dissipation through the infrared light inside the body, or just air between the magnet and the coil, transferring heat from one side to another, and it's not very efficient. So by adding ferrofluid, you kind of close this gap of air between one side and another, and then you transfer heat more efficiently. But it has its own limits, and the limits are dissipating this energy and transferring this energy. If you create this heat inside the coils too fast, too much in a short period of time, there is nothing you can do about it. It's like trying to push little car engine, let's say 1 liter engine, to 500 horsepower. You can put big turbo, you can put low pressure air income, good exhaust, and so on, but you will kill this motor in couple thousand kilometers. The same here, you can, if you find a way to push the heat from the motor very fast, there will be possibility. I mean, there are technologies like this, but it's not for our show. Yeah, there are materials which have zero resistance, and then you can push basically unlimited current through the material and create indefinitely strong magnetic field. But those technologies are not available for cheap and for easy manufacturing in e-bikes. Maybe in the military, uh, it will be done. Uh, yeah, somebody wrote off-grid philosophy. Your bikes are the best. Thank you very much. I had my Typhoon for 2 years now, and it's just like new. Yes, the Typhoon is very good bikes in terms of service that you need to do, since you have the motor directly located in the rear wheel. Um, you don't have any chain or any mechanism to transfer the torque from the motor to the rear tire. It's basically the motor inside the wheel, as you understand. And it has their own minuses, but it also has its own benefits. First of all, it's almost service free. All you need to do is just change the bearings on the side covers of the motor after 5-10,000 kilometers, depending where you ride, how bumpy, how heavy you are. It's very individual. And the second thing, it's very silent. Since you have motor inside the wheel, there is no any necessity to transfer this torque. So it's very good long life, has long life, and very quiet, and very low service maintenance. But you get extra weight, unsprung weight on the rear, which is not that good for aggressive riding, mountain biking. Uh, at the moment when we talk right now, I look through the window and we have a huge rain. I hope we won't have hail, because recently the weather is crazy. So yeah, let's continue. Um, why don't powerful e-bikes have motorcycle brakes? You talked about safety, and in my opinion, even high-end bike brakes feel a little bit underpowered. I mean, I know they work good usually, but what? Okay, yeah, I understand. Uh, I agree with you. Motorcycle brakes sometimes are better. It's like in this situation, bigger is better, because you have more mass on the rotor, you have more material on the caliper itself, and most of the time you have bigger surface of contact. So in all parameters, it's better. But if you compare the weight of the motorcycle brake and the weight of the high-end bicycle brakes, they are not comparable. They are 2, 3, 4 times heavier than top-end bicycle brakes. And if you go with a light vehicle overall, with a total weight, let's say 40, 50 kilograms, to put 5 kilograms to as unsprung weight to the front wheel or on the back extra is too much. If overall bike weight is over 100 kilos, there is nothing extreme in this. But if you want very responsive work from your suspension, front or rear, you don't want to put extra weight back or front. And if you look at the brake systems that we offer now, with a 4-piston double caliper brakes on the front, uh, as you understand, when you ride fast and you need to brake uh, also in a short period of time, most of the work you get, most of the braking power you get from the front wheel. So it's very important to have a brake system and very good brake system on the front. And we have 4-piston double caliper brakes. They are 2.3 millimeters wide, and in most cases, you are limited just by the traction of your front tire and the surface you're riding with. And for me, I cannot imagine better brakes. If you basically can lock your front wheel, if you push too hard, you cannot make your brake rotate your wheel backward, right? So if you're not suffering with overheating, and in our situation you are not because it's enough, there is absolutely no point of putting much heavier motorcycle brakes. Yes, they are cheaper, they can sustain higher temperature because of the extra mass, but extra weights most of the time just kill all the benefits you get. If we compare the low cost bicycle brakes with small rotors, 2-piston, I agree with you. It's not enough, and I always tell you need to think about the power of your bike together with your braking capabilities. If you can accelerate to high speed in a short period of time, you should be able to brake to stop at the same rate. It's not acceptable if you can accelerate fast, but then your braking distance is longer than your accelerating distance. Safety should be priority number one. And on our bikes, you have front brakes, you have a rear brake, and you have a regenerative braking. Even if both mechanical brakes go bad, you still have enough regenerative force braking your rear wheel to stop you, even if your uh, brake for some reason go bad. Uh, I had one situation with a friend of mine. We were riding recently. He was riding the Vortex bike. I was riding Typhoon bike, and the hose, the brake line from the rear brake was in the wrong position. The zip tie was holding it in the wrong position. And the rear wheel, the tires that we used were very aggressive, bigger than normally we use on a bike. And at some point, the axle was not fixed too much; it was loose, so the wheel moved a little bit on one side, and with the tire, it just scratched and damaged the brake line on the bike, and the brake fluid on the next braking just didn't create the pressure on the in caliper of braking caliper, and the oil goes on the tire itself. But because he had regenerative braking, he didn't. Of course he felt the difference when he pushed. There was no the feedback like you should, but he had the braking power on the back wheel because of the regenerative braking. So it has its own pluses and its own minuses. With regenerative braking, you stress more your battery, you stress more, you push more heat on your windings, also in your controller. Sometimes I turn off regenerative braking just to have more time to cool down the motor when I ride. But for the safety, I would say it's better to have a regenerative braking turned on than turned off. Um um, yeah, we had riders who are 120, 140 kilos. Different people, different parameters of how tall riders ride in the bike, how heavy riders ride in the bike. We tested our bikes with two people on the bike, accelerating to the top speed, breaking down to zero, doing it repeatedly for 20 times. Sometimes something you wouldn't be able to achieve. That's the philosophy how we test our components, like our battery. We tested it for 15 kilowatt, but we set it to 10 kilowatt and give it to our clients. We test our frame with 250 300 kilograms, but we say it's good for 150 kilograms. We over stress. It's always good to know that you have this extra oomph, extra protection, extra something that you don't need, but you have it, and you ride with the confidence that you have extra something and not always on the limit. Mm, so yeah, we have a lot of questions about the brakes, and I think so far the brakes that we're using are the best that you can buy um, for e-bike. They have a cut-off sensor and they are very powerful. So if there will be available brakes that has more braking performance, we'll be glad to switch. But for now, I think the brakes that we have are the best. I also wanted to talk about interesting topic of the um, world crisis in terms of resources, because we as a company also faced with it, and not only our company. I took the interview with CEO of Specialized and Santa Cruz bikes. All companies around the world are faced with material and resources deficit. So um, we were in a situation where we waited our order more than a year. Uh, you transfer money to the factory. As you know, we work with the factories directly. You transfer money to the factory. We work with a Tector brand. We transfer money, and then we wait a year. Next order that we placed, we have to wait 1.5 year. So this is the reason why we don't sell some components separately. Only we use them for our bikes, because when we don't know what's going to be the waiting time. And yes, we do have those components in stock, but we cannot um, sell them separately for the clients who want to build their own bike, because then we might be in a situation when, let's say, in half year, in 9 months, we will be out of stock, and the clients who order the bikes have to wait because those parts are not available. And unfortunately, this situation's happening with almost every component you can imagine, like brakes, suspension, tires, pedals, even the motors. There are some aspects with this. Whatever you look now, it's like, I don't know, world go crazy, and I think it's connected with. Oh, I see the message, no audio. Please, guys, let me know if you have audio in chat. Uh, I didn't change any settings, so it shouldn't be the case. But as I was talking, yeah, it's very hard now to buy Okay, we have audio. We have a big problems right now with buying components. Gladly, because we buy a big number of components ahead of time, we were able to wait extra 2, 3, sometimes half year with delay, but still had some component in stock. Otherwise, we would be out of work for half a year or something like this. And for some companies, this is the case. I don't want to tell other brands' names, but I know many companies struggling because of this. And sometimes we try to help each other. If we have some component in stock, we share with one each other. Sometimes it's not even a sale; it's just uh, giving those components to use for other companies, and then they give it back or maybe help you with something, because now it's very very difficult. And as you understand, without one component that you need on the bike, if you don't have it and you cannot finish the bike, you cannot sell the complete product. So thank you for the feedback. I had a question: if we work on new bike models? Yes. I can't tell too much about it, but some aspect I can tell. The new bike we started 1.5 years ago as just a project. We work with a super professional for the suspension. He is just profi guy who knows his job. He designed suspension for different brands, different bikes. His work were published in different international magazines, and he made the project for us. The new bike will be built with as a mid drive. It will use for now the hub motor as a mid drive for a couple of reasons. First, it's a quietness, and second, it's a high torque on lower RPM. Maybe we will change it in future, but for now, the aspect how quiet bike are is very important for me and our clients, as I get the feedback. So it will be the mid-drive bike uh, with aluminum frame. It will be most likely in two sizes for people with um, height of 170 centimeters and 190 centimeters. So it should fit for all riders. In plans to do the certification for this bike, we have a third or even fourth prototype ready. It's not just a prototype number, it's a generation. From one, we changed something, we did a second generation prototype, then we changed it again to the third, and now we have more or less prototypes that we are happy with. But we're still in the process of testing, and as only we will be happy with it and ready, we will publish it. We probably will offer it in two versions. One version will be street legal with a plate number for European Union. For US, it's probably even easier to certify it, and unlimited version, because as you know, the street limited version should be limited to a certain speed and power. And for some people who plan to ride only in a forest field or complete off-road, it's unnecessary, and they don't want to pay extra for the certification process. So we'll have two options. Probably the unlimited uncertified version will be faster because the certification process take time. um, so it will be fast, powerful bike, comfortable with the best suspension, with the best rear suspension we have so far. Um, yeah, it will be able to work with the pedals, but I think the most comfortable ride will be still with the foot pegs. It will be able to install the motor seat or bicycle seat on this bike. So you will be able to switch from a bicycle style with a bike seat and pedals to a motorcycle style with a motorcycle seat and a foot pegs. So this is something I can tell you about. The battery will be interchangeable. So if you want, you can order two batteries and swap one to another. Um, yeah, we'll see. I still thinking how big the battery should be, taking into account they will be um, fast changing batteries. Maybe it's not that necessary to have a battery capacity of 3-4 kilowatt hours. Maybe 2 kilowatt hours will be enough. We will see. But yeah, stay tuned. I think maybe in 1-2 months we will share with you more news about this new bike. Most likely, we will sell it as a bike or at least as a pre-assembled kit because the frame itself is much mm, harder in manufacturing and assembling than what we have so far. So we will see. So, but the plans now to made it as a bike, not as a frame or component. Um, Yeah, and I know some people thinking, okay, why not to make a street legal version and then to de-restrict it? The Suron in Europe has problems right now with some authorities because, as you know, in Suron bikes, it's just matter of one wire. You cut it and you can go much faster. But this is clearly against the rules of European Union, and some authorities now taking measures about this. I don't know what's going to happen in the near future, but I think if you want to be a street legal, go with a street legal version. If you don't need it, just buy a cheaper, unrestricted version. And I don't see a reason to go with a more expensive street legal with limited power and speed. Um, The question, do you drop test these bikes? I mean, how much can this take beating in the enduro or in the jump track? Well, I can say only we had couple accidents on the jumps or falls or something, and the first thing that was breaking were wheel rims, although even sometimes motorcycle rims or other components, but not the frame. So something you can be sure it's the frame. If you will be able to break our frame, Typhoon or Vortex, I probably will change it with a new one because so far, again, we designed those frames in order to sustain the mm, extra force and not be destroyed. Okay, guys, we're talking already 40 minutes. Let's see. I have one question here, and if we have more questions in the chat, I will answer them. If not, we will close it. You have more time to prepare more questions, and I think the 1 hour time mark should be more or less a good indication for to not make it boring and so on. So let's see. Mhm. I have few questions about the range and the tunability of the bike. You mentioned 90 kilometers and 4,500 foot elevation change for the off-road range. I live in the area where my house is about 20 miles by pavement to a trail system, I would ride. I'm conservative, cruising 30-40 miles per hour on a flat road. What can I expect my range to be? Would I have a battery left to ride trail? And second question, is the software that governs delivery adjustable? So we have two questions. First question about the range, and second question about the software and limitation. So let's start with the first one. So the range, the probably the questions that I hear the most of the time from the people, and it's not a surprise, of course. If you talk about any electric vehicles, the first question you have: how long can you drive on a single charge? And if we talk about cars, it's more or less you can do some standardized test and do it over and over. With the bikes, it's very different because when you sit in a car, your weight is not playing too much role on the overall weight of the vehicle with you inside, right? Even if you're a small person of, I don't know, 50 kilo, or you're a big guy with 150 kilo, if you calculate overall weight of the car of 2 tons, it plays no role, right? If we talk about the bikes, it's a different situation. We need to keep in mind many aspects. First, it's your weight, what tires you're gonna use. Are it gonna be aggressive tires with a soft material, or it's gonna be tires for the asphalt pavement, and they will be with a high pressure. Then how fast you're gonna ride, it play a very critical role. How fast you're gonna accelerate and break down, it's gonna be always the same speed, or you accelerate and then breaking down, accelerate, breaking down. I don't like the companies who advertise their products like can go up to you can go to indefinite distance, right? You can push your bike and go to 1,000 kilometers on a single charge. This is something I really don't like when the companies advertise a product saying up to. I prefer to say minimum. If you take our bike and go to the trails, let's say to the mountains, you put aggressive tires and you're a heavy guy, I can guarantee you that you will make 50, 60 kilometers range riding aggressively up and down, accelerating, breaking down, and so on. You can make probably the distance twice as much if you will ride more gentle, use regenerative braking instead of mechanical braking. If you will ride with smaller speed, not going flat out, it's all relatively relative. What I can share with you, and which should give you more understanding of the range you will get, is a live tracking of in our channel, on YouTube channel that you're looking right now. There are videos with a typhoon, with a vortex, where I show video, I show Strava GPS data, I show it in different 3D visualizing programs, where you can see real data from a real ride, and you can compare: are you going to ride the same steep hills, or are you going to ride with the same high or slow speed, or you're going to ride faster? And this should give you understanding: will you get more range, less range? Because to answer the question that I just read, we need to have like 5 or 6 variables into account to give you more or less the answer. As a rule of thumb, the slower you go, the bigger range you will get. But again, there are too many other aspects that you need to take into account. Um, we have a client who wrote me that on a single charge he did over 200 kilometers, but he was riding more or less conservatively, with a high pressure of tires. I ride my bike with almost zero pressure in the tires to get maximum grip. It's very different. So please, my answer to this will be: take a look in our channel, the videos where I share the distance, how much you can ride on the different batteries. It can be a light battery with just 2 kWh, or it can be original battery with 3.2 kWh, or it can be our biggest battery is almost 4 kWh. And you get understanding what the range will be if you write so and so, and then you can uh, change it to your parameters where how you're gonna write. And the soft question was about the software that change power and speed. Yes, we can pre-program your bike to certain parameters in terms of the speed on first mode, second mode. The same about the power. We can limit the power to a certain amount, but if you want to change speed and power, you need to have a Bluetooth add-on that you can connect to your bike, and then on your phone or on your computer, you can change those parameters such as speed, acceleration, and so on. But this should be strictly under our guidance, because if you change some parameters that you don't know, it can go it you can basically break the bike, because if you change some important parameters and the bike work not in an effective way, something can overheat, or like, if you know what you're doing, you can do it. If you don't know, you should do it only with our assistance. uh, how much time does it take? Maybe 20 seconds to open the app on your phone, connect to the system, 10-15 seconds more, and change these parameters maybe 10-15 seconds more. So all in all, less than 1 minute to change speed, power, whatever. But to make it fast, you can pre-program it for different mode, and let's say one mode can be 20 miles per hour with average power, and the second mode will be unlimited speed and power. And then you can switch it on the go while you're riding. So, yeah, I answered those questions. Let's see if we have something more in chat. Okay, we have a good question. KTM Freeride electric bike have 200-volt system or something like this. Why don't you take high voltage road? I'm not sure about this, about 200 volts. Maybe it's higher than our system, but I don't think it's 200 volt. Uh, just from the safety concern, if you touch 48 volt, nothing gonna happen, right? If you touch 72 volt, you will, with a dry hand, nothing gonna happen. If you get electrocuted, it will shake you a little bit, but nothing too serious. If you talk about systems 100 plus, or especially 200 volts, it can be uh, life threatening. So, from a safety perspective, the lower voltage, the better it is. But you always need to be in equilibrium between the safety and power. The higher voltage you go, the less amps you need to push, but the higher the voltage, and in a bike system, I would say 100 volts plus minus. It's a like uh, good average point for the bike. For your information, if you want to do a certification on a bike and you're located in the European Union, if your battery can reach over 60 volt, you already need to pass the high voltage test for your vehicle. And this high voltage test is pain in in the butt. You need to go through a special procedure, destroying battery, taking the isolation to the test. All the wires should be bright orange. So basically, it's a extra safety precaution for a reason, and it's already starting from 60 volts. Our system work at 70 volts nominal, the highest voltage 82, the lowest is 60. But I touched many times the 70, 80 volts. It's nothing critical. If you don't have any heart disease, nothing gonna happen. If we talk about 200 volts, it's a different situation. I don't recommend you to test it on your own. You can find the videos on YouTube what's going to happen if you touch 200 volts live. Uh, where can I find the dimensions for the Vortex mainframe? The center box, so I can work out how many amps I can get in there. On our website, let me check 1 second. If you go for the vector vortex frame, uh, let's see. Oh, sorry, I opened the bike. If you go to the component section and then you go to the frames and you open the vortex frame, you will have pictures. Please take a look at those pictures. You have length, height, and how deep is the frame. If you use 18650, I think the highest number I ever saw installed in this frame was about 700 cells. With highest capacity cells that we have right now, the battery can be 8, 9, maybe even 10 kilowatt hours. I'm not sure why you would need 10 kilowatt hour battery on your bike. I ride the bike with 4 kilowatt hour battery, and I'm tiring before the battery is empty. Of course, it's depend on where you ride or how you ride. Maybe you go flat out on a asphalt road and you need to ride with a high speed, but then probably it's better to buy a motorcycle. If you want to use this bike for what it was designed, you don't want to have a super heavy battery. So again, it's a compromise between the weight and capacity of your battery. So yeah, I hope I answered this question. Mm. Uh, Off-grid philosophy saying that I'm going to try upgrading to 220 millimeters rotor on the front. I'll make my own spacers. Yes, of course. We for our new bike we had to make our own rotor, because it was different position with different holes for the bolts. So of course you can do it. You just need a good material, laser cutted, and why not? Why we don't go with a higher rotor size than 203 millimeters? Because you can lock your front wheel with systems that we have right now. Why do you need to go with a bigger rotor if you can lock your front wheel? There is no point. The weight difference is not that much. I agree. If you put 180, 200, 220, the weight difference won't be too much. But again, if you go off-road, you don't want your rotor be this size because you will bend it very fast. The bigger rotor you have and the bigger heat temperature difference you experience on your rotor, let's say you are braking hard going down, your rotor is very hot, and then you go to the puddle with the water and the water get on a rotor, it will do this, it will bend. So it's not the motorcycle rotor that much thicker and stronger in this dimension, right? For bending, your rotor will do this shape, and the bigger rotor you have, if you fall down, the more chances you will bend it mechanically as well. The difference between 200 and 220 is not that big to warn you about this, but again, if you can lock your front wheel, there is absolutely no reason to go bigger. Okay, we just crossed 1 hour mark. So guys, let's see. Just I will check fast more questions from you, and if we have more questions. I really like it. I will answer them in our next live vlog, because as I said, I don't want to make those videos too long that people who have time on the weekend, they can just watch it fast and maybe skip some questions that they not interested about. But I don't want to make it 3 hours podcast or something like this. Um, mhm, mhm. I have 205 3-turn motor from you, and it works great with just only 80 amps. I will add more amps soon. Have Sabaton control, and I will get a nuclear 20F 24F if in the future. Yeah, this motor can handle much more than 80 amps, especially if it's like burst acceleration and it's room temperature. You can push it to crazy numbers. Uh, I asked before about jumping. Do you think one of the battery spot welds could fail in the nickel in the landing? Good question. If you build your battery and your cells holding only on the nickel, I would say it's not safe at all. Why? Because even if the nickel holds, I have batteries here. If your nickel holds on the contact, uh, you can rip your battery off the nickel, even if the nickel will rip with a hole. But it's very possible to do, especially if you fall on a bike or if you jump and land hard on a bike. Taking into account that our bike's designed for off-road riding, and I completely understand you sooner or later you will fall on this bike. That's that's why we designed them, to ride, to have fun, and sometimes fall. It's inevitable, right? So we use a special sort of glue to connect those cells. So even if you drop the battery down, they will stay in one place. Then, of course, we use extra protection layer on the positive side, where you have positive and negative on the cell. We use a special protective between the cell groups. We use a special protective on each individual cell packs. So we use like 5 layers of protection to prevent shortening on the battery. And if you want to build your own battery and think just the nickel will be enough, uh-uh. uh, look at Tesla. All the cells are in the individual place, hold, and they have a structure rigidity. You know, it's not possible to build a strong battery and hoping it will hold itself just on the nickel. Even if you have a good welding on the nickel, that's like, not talking about this. That's something that should be already for sure. But again, on our batteries, yeah, we did a drop test of the battery itself. The cover of the battery, the case of the battery, sometimes got damaged, bent, but the batteries were fine. And it's very important why something what we're doing. I don't like when the people building a battery as a single block, which weighed 15, 20 kilos, and this block is like, solid one piece. Because if you have the batteries like this, and they can move one to another, and you hit them, they can absorb this hit by moving inside the shell, right? If you have it like a solid block and you hit just a single cell or something like this, the whole stress cannot be shared between the cell groups. So you need to find a compromise, and we spent many prototypes and hours to find the good trade-off and solution. And yeah, you can see, we have a videos on this channel where I talk more about our batteries, how we build them, how much power they can provide. But again, it's very important to make sure that you have many layers of protection physical and electronical, like a BMS, extra switch. It's never too much safety, I would say. Uh, you work with Ladi? Yes, I know Zeladi. It's a cool guy. He also builds similar bikes. He uses frames as we use, but he has a different approach. He goes with the different batteries, different controllers. So we have, I would say, different bikes. You can see many bikes built on the similar frames on different channels. Uh, Soft shell pack for the battery. I'm not sure how good this idea. If you want to go rough riding, I would say the metal case for the battery is a good idea, or any other material, but something that can take beating or hitting. I have only one caliper. One caliper is also enough. If you can lock your wheel, if you ride and you push hard your brakes, if they bleed good, you don't have air in the system. If you push it and you can lock your wheel, there is no need to go for better brakes in terms of performance. In terms of heat dissipation, it's another question. But if you can push your brake lever and you lock your wheel, there is no any other brake that can rotate your wheel backward when you're braking. So, um, okay, guys. We have more questions, but the time is over 1 hour 7 minutes so far. So I want to thank you for watching and being with me here live. I really appreciate all your questions. Mm, I might not, no, I maybe was not answered to all of your questions, but I definitely will read all the comments and take those questions as the first that I will answer next time. Let's see. Let's plan next time on Wednesday and Friday. I will announce it maybe before on our YouTube channel, or please, if you're not subscribed, go to our Facebook group. We have our Facebook page where I will publish the announcement about next stream. Thank you once again for staying with me, for asking me questions. It's a pleasure. I really appreciate it. And if you like it, please leave a comment. Maybe you want to change something, maybe you need better audio or video, but I think the most important is a live conversation between you and me where you can place any questions you would like to know the answer. Thank you once again and see you next time. I wish you a great weekend, great evening or day, depending where you're right now. Thank you very much and see you later next time. Bye bye.